people. So it is your girl, Cierra Charisma. And once again, I have not kidnapped your fearless leader, but he is in the 757. And so we are here kikiing, and we kind of fell into a whole nother conversation. And I think it's going to be great, y'all. And so, okay, so I'll just give some context, right? So earlier, I think when we did like our first podcast, like me, like when I came on or whatever, or maybe that might have been the second time, but basically I was in DC, Maryland, that area, and like we went for brunch, and I was like kikiing, and I was like, yeah, bro, it's been a real sad girl summer, went through a major breakup, and I'm like trying to like regroup, and you know, and we just like kind of fell into a conversation, and then like, now we're here, and why don't you tell the people why you're here, and you know, we'll kind of get into what we're talking about today.
Yeah, so I'm in Virginia Beach because I'm always in Virginia Beach around this time of year. Not always, but often. And it dates back to when I got divorced. I got divorced in 2017, 6 years ago. And I'm a beach bum. And at that point in my life, I had maybe had one beach day in what was about to be 2 full summers. Wow. And that was just not gonna do it for me. That was not it. So I was looking for places to go that was in driving distance, and I'd never been to Virginia Beach. My roommate was from the 757 as well. My college roommate, he's from the 757. So I knew about it, you know, seemed like a cool spot to go to, whatever. And so I just decided to drive down, and it was the best, still to this day, is one of the best trips I've ever taken. It was a solo trip, just me. And I've come back here, I think I've come back here every year since. Maybe I missed 1 or 2 years. But okay. I've been back ever since. And when I came, just to tell that story, the first time I came here, it was a spur of the moment. Like I booked an Airbnb a few blocks away from the beach. Okay. I knew I wanted to be able to walk to the beach. I think I even brought my bicycle, so I could bike around, ended up biking to the lighthouse and back or whatever. It's a nice little vibe. That was also the summer, if I'm not mistaken, where they were taking out all the Confederate statues. So my uncle and I, my uncle who's living with me now, he was staying with me as well, as he does periodically during the summer. Anyway, and he was trying to get down to North Carolina. I dropped him off at the bus stop in Richmond, but before that, we went and saw all the Confederate statues. Mm-hmm. And now they're all gone. The one of them's still up, and it's all like graffitied, which is fantastic. But yeah, so we saw them before they were all taken down, which was kind of interesting and timely for that. But anyway, he went on his way, I went on my way, and I get onto the beach after that. I check in at Airbnb, I walk to the beach, and there's like black stuff everywhere. Unbeknownst to me, I pull up, and it's the funk. Well, I think it was like the Funk Fest or the whatever. And I was like, of course it is. And like, there's black diasporic stuff on sale. There's artwork and jewelry and clothing and all this kind of stuff. And that night, I'm hearing music. I'm like, is that go-go?
It's go-go.
And so I was like, this is destined. This was meant to be. I won't like. My house, in terms of artwork, was kind of barren after the divorce, if you could picture that. Walls had nothing on them, so the first 2 pieces that I added to the wall, to the current decor that's there now, I purchased at the Funk Fest, part of that event. So there was a picture of Shirley Chisholm and a painting of Malcolm X, paintings of each actually, and those are still in my house to this day.
Yeah, and they're very dope. And just for y'all who don't know, Virginia Beach is very white. At least, especially it's white. I mean, black folks, we be out here, but
we don't live here, evidently.
Like, or not in these parts.
Right. No. Right.
Right. And again, forewarning that Virginia Beach used to be a sundown town, so for you to hear go-go, that is very rare.
Yeah.
And for you to pull up and like, there's this Funk Fest. I love that for you. It was 2017, right after Trump. Mm-hmm. Love that for you. And so this episode, I guess, is kind of like Q&A, right? Because I feel like I don't know. I feel like breakups, divorces, that can all be very tough and 2 separate things, but like very tough to navigate like those waters. And so I'm just gonna be asking you like Q&A because I feel like there's a cool conversation there.
Yeah, and this is a new thing for Who Knows It's Just Life, because I don't know that I've ever gotten this I don't think I've ever talked about my own personal relationship, either past or present, relationships past or present, ever on the show. And so this is new territory for the show. But here, let's do it. We in Virginia Beach. This is the setting for it. So ask away.
And you could just say like Malibu if it's ever like too much too soon. Or, like,
is that the safe word? Malibu?
Yeah, because I'm Insecure. Have you seen it?
Oh, you're right. Yeah, it didn't click, but I got you.
But Malibu was opposite because they were just like radical honesty, like. But it's like, and this one's like too much.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess even if we take it back to our conversation about brunch that day, you talked about how you got married right out of college, right? And you said as you were preparing to get married, your parents were getting a divorce, but they didn't tell you that. And you said something where you were like, if they would have told you, it would have made you reconsider. Like, I want to get into that. So, like, so let's talk about your parents' relationship and then, like, why them not telling you would have had you, like, reconsider. Like, what was that like for you?
So, I, for better or for worse, idolized their relationship. Mm-hmm. And I went off to college at 18, whatever. I didn't go very far, but I was still very much in the cocoon of
home,
of camp. No, I was when I was in campus. I was in the cocoon of campus.
Oh, okay.
And was not even
right because you're in college.
Yeah, I was very lost in the moment. So, I idolized their relationship. And looking back and having read, I read Modern Romance by Aziz Ansari, which is hilarious, but it helped give language and terminology to what I feel like different marriages can be. Like, they can be romantic marriages, they can be pragmatic marriages, there can be compatibility marriages, like just like, oh, we just want to make a family, whatever, but we don't, like, the love might not be there the whole time, mm-hmm. whatever. There's a lot of companionship, a lot of different kinds of modes to it, and I think my parents' marriage was great. It started well, and ultimately they got divorced, but I didn't see the worst of the divorcing part because I was in college and an adult after that. I never moved back home or anything like that. So where my younger siblings, I think, saw more of why they should be divorced. And if I was being honest, like, the embers were there earlier mm-hmm. on. I just didn't. I had blinders up.
You're
and was
like,
oh, their relationship is great. And so I think if they had gotten divorced earlier, because I don't think their divorce was even final until I was married, I think. But even like the writing on the wall was probably there, and I should have perceived that already before I got married, but it wasn't. And so I just think it would have been a wake-up call, kind of like a shock to the system, if the relationship I idolized wasn't a forever marriage. It would have just jolted me into like a questioning of everything, and maybe it would have changed the trajectory of my relationship with my ex-wife, or not. I don't know. It might not have, but I think it, like, that just would have been an interesting input to my relationship calculations, because basically what I wound up doing was emulating their relationship. They met they met in DC before college. They went to college in Rhode Island.
They were prom dates. And
no, actually they were.
Okay.
They met before the senior year of high school, so they were prom dates. But they met like the summer before, and it was like, whatever. And then they went to the same college and all that kind of stuff. So that was cool. And I met my ex-wife in college, and it was like, oh, great, I'm going to do the same exact thing. And it was kind of like, for me, it was like, and she was cool. The relationship was good. Like, there were pieces, and now looking back, there's parts of it that weren't great, obviously. And we also were kids. Like, you're basically still a kid when you're in college. So,
even when you get out of college.
Yeah, so there's a lot to learn. A man's brain isn't fully formed until 27, so that's right when I got divorced. So, or no, sorry, I wasn't divorced till 31. But anyway, anywho, so yeah, I think there's just, I just would have approached relationships differently. I would have put, I don't know. Not that I put pressure on myself to do what they did, but the fact that it was filling a similar model, I was like, oh, this makes perfect sense, because that's what worked for them.
Yeah.
Oh wait, it didn't.
And so it's like, this is what you grew up seeing, so you're thinking this is the way it must be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not. Yeah, and I shouldn't say it didn't. I mean, it worked. It worked how it worked. It worked. They had 3 kids, and we're here. We're doing our thing, which
none
is great.
of you are crackheads.
None of it, right? And we're all doing fine. So great things came from their marriage, and they had a good partnership for many years. I think that they also had years that weren't great in partnership, and I think in marriages those tend to last longer than they should, air quotes. But obviously it's hard to untangle yourself from something you're so familiar with for so long. It's just a difficult thing to do. So yeah, I mean, I'll stop there.
I get you. But I think you said a lot, and so I guess my question, like, did you grow up seeing other relationships? Because even your Uncle Sean in his, like, the episode where you talked, like, the one you did with him, where I think he kind of said, like, there was almost a time he almost got married and it didn't work out, and he kind of lived life as like a bachelor traveler extraordinaire. So, like, did you have other relationships that you saw besides your parents? Especially, like, I guess to, like, when you got married, did you have other role models in mind where it's like, okay, like, who do I seek wisdom for, like, as new people, as, like, new, young, newlyweds going into to marriage?
So, I guess I'll start with family. I had aunts and uncles that had partners in marriages and stuff, and those counted to a degree. I don't think any of them got divorced. So, like, divorce was never modeled as an acceptable thing. Not that it wasn't acceptable. It just nobody did it. So it was just like normal. What was normalized was staying married. Even though looking back, I could have seen things that may or may not have been great about the relationships, but everybody's still married.
Yeah.
Well, my parents are, but, like, that kind of thing. So, but then kind of, but I think my parents' relationship always was way more important anyway. Like, other folks could have gotten divorced, and I'm like, well, my parents are still together, so I would have still held them in a higher regard regardless. In terms of peers, was the question also around peers?
Not just peers, but, like, even like I guess for, like, wisdom, where it's like, who, like, I guess, like, of course you have your parents, but, like, you know how, like, you have, like, mentors in, like, life and various things where it's like, who else would you have gone to for wisdom? Because I feel like, I don't know if I would want necessarily, like, if we're both 24 getting married and our friends is, like, got married at, like, 23, I mean, I might talk to them about some things, but I'm talking to the people who's, like, who got 40, 50 plus years, and, like, who else has been around, who else has spun the block around this marriage thing?
Yeah, and I didn't really talk to people like that. I kind of just saw things and observed things, good things. I chose to ignore the bad thing, any perceptibly bad thing, and just kind of, like, kept it moving. I didn't really necessarily seek counsel or, like, ask people questions. I don't think. Maybe my mom. I don't know. Maybe I asked her some questions at some point, but that might have been after I was already married. I don't know. So I don't think I really did a very good job or a job of that at all.
Okay, and then because, like, was there a reason I asked that? Oh, okay, I know what it was. When you were talking, what popped up to me, I thought about this Joy DeGruy interview. Have you ever seen the podcast Man Enough?
No.
So she did an episode of that, and she was talking about how she did a study where it's like, when women, like, kind of have I don't say a problem, but when they peep something, or if something is a foot or a miss, we call other women. And it's like, hey, like, I'm experiencing this. Like, did you do, like how did you mitigate through that? And she's noticed, like, with her husband, like, and just with other men, period, men don't hit each other up like, hey, bro, like, did you go through this? I went through this. How did you? They're like, what they do is men will, like, isolate. And, like, she was talking about her husband. Like, she was saying, like, she would notice, like, whenever there was, like, a problem sometimes, or if something was super, like, troubling him, he would go into his den. And she had to tell him, like, stop doing that. You're going down there to die. Because, like, when you look at it, like, in terms of, like, an anthropological. Yes. No. So when you look at it from, like, that space, and, like, the research she was saying is, like, women would come together, they would survive. Men would isolate, they would die. And so it's like the importance of talking to people and talking things out. And so when you said that, where you're like, oh, I didn't really like check with nobody. And again, like you were very young.
Yeah.
And I say that, and again, like this, like no shame, no shade. But I was like, when you said that, like I thought about, like that was the first thing that came to mind, where it's like, I didn't seek counsel. But I feel like with women, sometimes it just comes at us solicited or not, right?
I think so. I did seek counsel from my peers, but not from like you said, not from married couples that have spun the block and have been in it for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. So I didn't isolate myself in the sense that like I could talk to my homies about stuff, which I think was helpful, but I also didn't let it be all that helpful either. Like I feel like I've circled back and like, you know, after the divorce, it's like, did you ever tell me like you thought it might not work out? And they'd be like, you really think you would have listened? Because I can be stubborn, you know, I can be, you know, and I think a lot of them kind of, it's credit to them. They know me well enough to know that they couldn't have just told me like they didn't think it was a good, you know, whatever. I think they would have like pointed to things and be like, oh, is this what you want? Like, what do you really want? Like, is it like, are these things that, you know, but which is a great approach.
Yeah.
But I was ram-headed, I guess, in some areas and kind of went for it.
My friends were like, so I thank God, because like when I got into the last relationship, we were off again, on again, and God is faithful, because God had already told me like that ain't it, Chief. And I'm like, Lord, it's gonna have to be it, because I'm like, I have a timeline. I want to get married. I want to have babies. We gonna have to make it work. And I'm like, Lord, this is it. And he's like, okay. And when I tell you, God just would send people, like there was no like and this like the guy that I was with, there's no shade. Like he's not a bad guy, but it just wasn't it.
Yeah.
And when I tell you, like it would just be people like. Yeah. I remember like I will never forget. We got back together. And, you know, I told my aunt, and she was like, you pray about that? I was like, She's like, I'm not even going to say nothing to you. But again, there really wasn't, I don't want to say there wasn't peace, but like, it was one of those things where it's like, I knew I was coasting on grace, if that makes sense. Like, and I talked in like the last episode about like, you can't abuse grace. Because it's like, all right, you going to do what you going to do. It's like, you going to find out. And I think that's kind of why, like, when we broke up, I took it so hard and still had to process. But when I texted my friends, I think I told you.
You did tell me that.
I will never forget my homegirl sent the praise hands emojis. And it's like, all I could do was laugh to keep from crying. Right. And she said, listen, I know it might be too soon, but she was like, that just was not the relationship for you, and God has better for you. And so and they could see it. They were just like, and I think I told you another thing where my friend was like, homegirl, like called me, my sister, my best friend. And she was getting emotional, and she was like, listen, because I was like talking to her, I'm like, basically like talking something through. I'm like, well, I just don't know. I don't know. And she was like, you don't even sound like you. That is not even your vocabulary. She's like, you sound like him. In terms of like, she's like, you never used to doubt yourself like this. You never were so unsure. And so she was just like, and she's friends to both of us. So she was like, and again, there's no shade against him, but she was just like, you just don't even sound like you. And I think, and that hurt. Not in the sense of like, damn, you my friend, how you supposed to, like, you know, like you don't want to be like, not in that sense, but it's like, you're my friend and you're seeing something and I'm not ready to see it.
Yeah.
And I think that was important. So like when everything hit the fan, the friends were there, but it's different when it's like most of your people's is like states away. And I had friends here, but it really has been a literal come to Jesus moment. Yeah. And so, okay, so yeah, so that's what came up when you said that. But I do have a question. So like, what happened? Like when did you know where it's like, oh, like this ain't it, Chief? Like we gonna have to call it quits, because there was a lot. I think there's a lot at stake, right? Because you had already had your kiddo, and y'all was the college sweethearts, and you were in it for a couple of years. So I guess like, how do you know? And again, feel free, Malibu, if it's.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that. I think I can honestly say that it wouldn't have happened if she didn't leave. I was still kind of just in the whole like, well, we got married, You got to make it work. Because again, I had seen the relationships I had seen that were normalized were people who stayed married despite anything. And I don't know anybody's anything. Like, I don't know anybody's real dirt, if there is any, with aunts, uncles, whatever, like grandparents. Like, I don't know. Like my grandparents, like they would argue that you could tell, like, but ain't nobody gonna lead nobody. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, all right, well, this is just the hard things we need to work through, or whatever. So I was not the one that was like, this is not it. It's gotta end. Mm-hmm. When she moved out, like, that was the first step, obviously. And in Maryland, you have to be separated for a year. When you have a kid, you have to be separated for a year. That might be
file for divorce?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe it's true even if you don't have a kid. I'm pretty sure, definitely with a child, like at least like one kid, you have to be separated for a year first. And so that started that process. And I think she recognized that it was not a healthy relationship. It was not. It was. I don't know. Everybody's saying toxic these days. I guess you could say it was toxic. It wasn't healthy. It didn't feel good. It was tumultuous. It was. It wasn't safe emotionally. Like it wasn't. It just wasn't. It wasn't a good relationship. It really. And again, I think it was just because we grew. We met so young. We grew apart. We like you learn things about yourself and yourselves in your 20s. You also make mistakes in your 20s, and I think it's difficult when you are married to the person that you made mistakes. You made 20-something-year-old mistakes with, right? Like it's some of those things. Like you might say, "Oh, I forgive you," but like it's very difficult to truly heal and truly recover from some of those things when you ended up choosing that person to marry anyway. Sometimes it's nice to have made some of those mistakes with somebody you're never going to see again. Yeah. Right? When you're 20, 21, 23, whatever it is. Like,
it's like, oh, shit. Like, I ain't going to see you. This is college. Yeah.
Right. Sometimes you just chalk it up with experience, and maybe there's some pain one way or another, and that's not great. You don't want to leave somebody with pain, but, that's part of growing too, on both ends. And so for us, we went through all of those things together, all those growing pains together, and it just made it hard to, like, I feel like it made it hard for us to, I don't know if forgiveness was hard, or maybe it was just hard to move forward. And it was just a struggle. There were many struggles. But once we were separated, I started being happier.
Okay.
And I started seeing that there was, and I'm an extrovert. I was raised I had 3 siblings. I was raised in a family of 5. I've always been around people. I've always loved people. I'm energized by people. I never knew that I liked being in my house by myself before. I had never really had that. That experience was so rare for me as an adult. Because my ex and I, we lived together for the last year in college, and then we lived together right after college. So I one thing when I got divorced, I was like, I had a roommate from 3 to 31. I've never not had a roommate.
That makes sense. And hearing you talk, that's exactly what I thought about. And I thought about this thing that I heard in college too, right? Because my big thing, like when under my dreams, like I want to be married, I'm like I want to have kids. And my thing was like, and me and my best friend, we talk about this all the time, because I'm just like, when you're a kid, you're thinking, by the time I'm 25, I'm going to be married. And then it's like, ooh, 25 is here, no groom. But then it's like, okay. And then someone broke it down for me in college, and I never thought about it. And my whole thing, like, it'll happen when it happens. But he was like, from 0 to 18, you are somebody else's responsibility, right? Like your parents are, basically, you do something, and they might get in trouble. You're their responsibility.
Yeah.
18 to 22, you're in college, or you have other obligations, other things where it's like you have a responsibility higher than yourself.
Yep.
But it's like from 23 to like 29, where it's like you're just out in the world, and yet you want to couple with somebody else, and you want to get married, and you haven't even figured out yourself because you literally have had all these things. And I was like, oh, it's like when you put it like that, bro. It's like, okay. But
yeah.
that makes sense. And so it's like, so from 3 to 31, you never had been by yourself.
Never had my own space.
Yeah.
And with the divorce, like, I have my own space, but I have my son half the time. So it's like, I have my own space, sort of.
Ish, right.
Yeah, which is like, and I guess the point I was getting at was that, like, I learned how much I like being in a house by myself. Like, I just like it.
It's a vibe.
Like, I like sleeping in my bed by myself. thoroughly enjoyed it. It might be my preference. I think it's my preference. Like, and that's like strange. And like I was, you know, eventually I got to the point where I got a king size bed, and it's like, even if there's somebody in there, I'm still by myself. Like, I feel like this, and there ain't nobody else there. And I'm sticking out my arm all the way to the left because I guess I sleep on the right side of the bed. Is that a thing?
I guess so.
People always sleep on the same side of the bed. Anyway,
is that the side by the door? Because like people,
So anyway, I learned that, and so I knew at that point that I did not want to be married anymore. I kind of agreed with the decision. There was a little bit of, you know, like and that's part of why they do the year, especially with kids. It's like, is there an opportunity to rectify and keep it together for the sake of the kids, of course. And there was a little bit of that back and forth, but ultimately, like, I was like, yeah, no, this is the move. Like, this was not it. And I generally don't think we were the best partners for each other. And I don't think, I think she's a good person and everything. And I truly want her to be happy and have a relationship that fulfills her. And I honestly, I feel like I've had some of the best years of my life since the divorce. And it's no slight to her. It's no slight to marriage as an institution or anything like that. It's just in my experience in my life, like, those years were a blast and are a blast. I mean, I'm in, like, taking a solo trip to Virginia Beach, like, solo trip to Ghana. Like, I've done, like, and it, you know, it's not just the travels. It's just, you know, I've just thoroughly enjoyed myself in my 30s. And I think, to your point, being single and dating around a little casually in your 20s could set you up for enjoying those 30s with somebody too.
True.
So like me, I kind of flipped it. I was with somebody for my 20s, and now I'm enjoying my 30s as a single person with a kid. And that's enjoyable, but I could see it going the other way too. Like, and so I, like, really, and in the conversation with my uncle, he said, you know, do you, like, do you, boo-boo? Like, do like, make do in life what feels good for you. And I feel like my only issue is that a lot of people feel pressured to do what society has normalized and not what might truly be right for you, whether that's non-monogamy, whether that's being single, whether that's, you know, being, I remember my dad said, I think I might have been married, probably fresh married when he said this, and this is when he and my mom were getting divorced or splitting up or whatever. He was like, I think marriage should have terms and conditions. He's like, people should get married for 5 years and he was just throwing out the years, the number of years, it could be different, but like, people should get married for like 5 years, for example, and like have certain terms and conditions. And after 5 years, they could stay married with the same terms and conditions, stay married with different terms and conditions, or end it, and like have that just be normal. And I was like, and at first I was like, that's not what the Bible said. Like, that's not, you know, how it's supposed to go. It's supposed to be till death, you blah 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 blah. But now I'm like, yeah, that man was right. That shit sounds so smart now, because there's seasons, and Avery's at an age now where I'm just telling him about like seasons, how friendships change over seasons. Yeah. He's too young to really be dating or anything yet, of course, but like. But I'm still planting to see that like life has seasons. Yeah, you know, with all relationships. Yeah,
like your friends in 5th grade might not be your friends in 12th grade.
Of course, and like things definitely change. So, I don't know. I think that kind of a relationship model, although it sounds like a lawyer needs to be present and not so much your loving feelings, but it's smart, I think, because it. That's another thing that came up. I mentioned this to my therapist. I was like, it's really funny how when we date, we outside. When you're dating, you're like out of the date. You go places. You go do things. You might have like Netflix and chill. You might be at the house or whatever. But like, are you really like? Are you doing groceries together? Are you doing like life shit together? Because we outside in a relationship and then we get married and then we're inside all the time and then we realize, oh, inside me don't like inside you because we never had a relationship inside. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, because I feel like and this is why I think I feel like them first couple dates, I feel like it's an interview. It's not just all vibes, but I'm like, hold on, question, like, do you have children? Is there anyone that has children with you?
Yeah.
Like, is there anyone does anyone think they're in a relationship with you?
Right.
And again, because everything isn't always shits and giggles. It's like what's the real you? Okay, so I do have a question, and I'm gonna put a pin in this, and we'll circle back. But how did you heal? What was that healing process like for you? And then, or a better question, are you healed?
Whew. I don't think I'm healed. I think there's always things to learn and things to continue to patch up. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's just maintenance on healing. I don't know.
Okay.
And I would never I would never say that I'm done.
Right.
But how did I heal? I tapped back into things that I like doing for me. I used to love playing softball. I was in a men's league playing softball. I played co-ed football, touch football. I got back into those types of things. I got back into making music. I got back into stuff like that, therapy. Mm-hmm. Should have been on the top of the list.
Black men do therapy. Y'all.
Yeah, we do, and it's needed. It's definitely needed. It's necessary. It's good. Yeah, I mean, like the Virginia Beach trip, like mm-hmm. that was just like it was the start of a new me. Yeah, because I'd never taken a solo trip before. Like if I had traveled by myself, it might have been for work, and that was like weird. Like it's
weird because like you're still working and someone else is like on someone else's dime. And,
right. Yeah. And so, but for me to come here and literally like I brought my bike, like I could bike around and just do whatever I wanted to do. Like it was like that amount of liberation was kind of symbolic of the liberation I would have as a single man. Mm-hmm. And I didn't jump right into dating. I did eventually get on the apps for brief stints, like in like a few months after the divorce, and then like 6 months later, like I did apps a little bit mm-hmm. here and there. I know most of my most meaningful relationships were met organically, not through any apps. But that was because
the apps you can lie like the apps is just like a facade. It's like I'm curating the best version of me. Yeah, you really got to catch people outside,
right? Or inside. No, it's not.
That is true.
But no, so yeah, healing was a long process. It is a long process because again, I'm not going to say I'm done. But yeah, all of those things and just tapping into community. Like I feel like we always say it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to be an adult.
True question. How did that work? Like post divorce with like did you have to like split the village or because I feel like whenever you're a couple, it's like, all right, now like we're all like it's like your friends become my friends, and then like now we're divorcing, and it's like, are your friends still my friends? Like, how does that work? So
that didn't really happen in our case, so that wasn't too difficult. Like, yeah, like. That didn't happen. Okay. So it was kind of like go back to your quarters. It was like go back. Like the friends didn't become friends necessarily, and so yeah, that was fairly smooth. I was able to just there's people who, especially folks that we went to college with, who knew both of us. Like mm-hmm. there were some cases where it was like, oh, who's gonna be whose friend, right? But that I don't really think that was really even a question. I think it was kind of. Whoever initiated the friendship in college, that's pretty much where it landed, which just seemed natural. There was no drama or anything like that. Okay. If that's what you're asking.
Not necessarily drama, but or even in instances like again like so when you guys split, like your kid was at least like what 4? About that like 3-ish.
3, yeah. The separation started when he was 3.
Because I guess my question like what about like birthday parties where it's like. Do you, or even in his case, like, do you guys do 2 separate parties? Is it like one party, or when, like, you have friends and families that like, hey, we're inviting, like, the woman to the party, but you're not coming to the party. Like, how does that work? If like, or is it like, hey, I have the kiddo on this day, so I'll take him to the party?
Yeah. So. Almost Malibu, but
okay.
I think so. Well, okay, I'll answer it this way. I think divorce is a very emotional process. It can be transactional. Mm-hmm. It can be. It's just a lot, and we've had phases where we did stuff together with him, mm-hmm. and we thought that would be important. Whether that was like Boo at the Zoo, that was. I think they still do that. I'm not a big Halloween person, so I'll do it. But so like we do that. I take him to a baseball game, something like that. Like birthday parties, like if it's a kid birthday party, it's like whoever he's with, that's who's taking.
Okay,
like we're not all chumming and like.
Okay.
No adults think birthday parties are fun for the right. I mean, I don't know if you do. Maybe it's an auntie. Maybe it's an auntie. They're fun.
And that's kind of where I'm at in this space now, where it's like shit. Like I'm like, because again, like I'm like we're close friends. Our close friends have kids, and I'm like, even recently where friends invited us to the. Luckily, and I said luckily, but I didn't have my car because I was just like. I saw that he was there, and I'm like, ooh, I'm glad I didn't go. And I say that in the space of, not that I hate him, like, I wish him all the best, but, like, I still have not seen him in person in, like, almost 6 months.
How do you think that would go?
I don't know. Again, I'm a very emotional person. Yeah. And so, like, throughout this breakup, there have been times where it's like, I am completely sympathetic of the situation because he had a major trauma happen. And he had to regroup and figure out himself, right? And I just don't think he was ready for what I was ready for. And so he's going through this life transition. I'm trying to be this partner and trying to figure out what he needs, but he doesn't know how to articulate what he needs. Yeah. So I'm doing just...
It's kind of like a mismatch almost.
Yes. And then even before that, where it's like, it was always this, I'm not ready. I'm like him not being sure what he wants. So then you add trauma on that and it's just not, it ain't it. And so even when we broke up, he was like, he's like, oh, I'm gonna regret this in 2 weeks. I'm like, if you regret this, do not call me and ask for me back because you miss me, but because it's like you actually see me in your life as like a long term thing. So I'm like, I'm not doing this for shits and gigs. Yeah. And like that was the hardest part because like I was always like fighting and chasing and trying to make it work, and I remember talking to a friend afterward. And I was just like, hey, because again, like she's my homegirl, but her man's is his homeboy. So I was just, okay. So I was just like, I don't know if you know, but we're not together. And me and her had a conversation, like, and she was like, what did she say to me? She said, when you two were together, she was like, anybody could see how much you wanted him and how much you cared, how you were dedicated to making it work and how you wanted that to be forever. She's like, anybody with eyes could see that. She's like, but when you talk to him, she's like when he was by himself and we would talk to him, not just like we, but like, or even being in spaces, she's like, it never gave, like, as sure as you were about him, it never gave he was as sure about you as you were about him. And she was like, you deserve somebody who will equally, if not more, like match or supersede your energy and sureness. Yeah.
I will say that was me. That was me. I kind of getting back to like the Aziz Ansari book where like just relationships, marriages in particular have different themes or different like what's pushing that relationship, whether it's love, whether it's, business or whatever. And I think my parents kind of fall into like the companionship marriage model where like they might have had love early on or whatever, but at the end of the day they were just a unit and they were a unit to raise these kids and like do that thing. And it was more so that than a romantic lovey-dovey. Like I can count on probably one or two hands how many times I had a date in like my upbringing. Like it wasn't a whole lot. And it's just like, damn, like and it's like, is that the reason it didn't? I don't know. But like, and so I brought I didn't bring much romance to dating. I brought like practical skills that could help you hold down a fort and like raise some kids. But like I wasn't all about the romantic, the lovey-dovey stuff, and I really didn't know I didn't know enough about myself to know what I would love in a person, and also I didn't know how I wanted to be loved either. And I eventually realized that like I didn't love her in the way that like you would expect for a relationship, and that was that. So yeah, I'm dropping a bomb like after you asked me the original question, what happened? No, that was like a really critical issue because like there was always that like. Like who likes like in any relationship, who likes who's more sure, whatever. I liked her and it was cool. Like there was a lot of compatibility and things like that. But like in terms of just like the the passionate love, whatever. Like I didn't have that, but I also didn't think that was a problem because it wasn't necessarily part of any of the relationships in my life in terms of like, of course then my parents get divorced. So it's like, oh, well maybe that is important. Right. So that's another reason why like that knowledge would have been helpful, and she may have appreciated it because she might, I don't know if she feels like she wasted her time with me or whatever. I could understand if she did. But also at the same time, like kind of like your ex, like I didn't have the language, I hadn't gone to therapy, or at least not enough yet, to be able to articulate those things. And now in hindsight, it's easy to be like, oh yeah, like, oh, I was in this place and da-da-da-da. But I have language now. I have years of experience of therapy first and foremost, but also just time for that to be in the rear view to understand it better. I mean, there's times where I'm talking to my homeboys now, we give each other the same advice like every other month, but it's not because we don't know the advice, it's because we don't see the need for it in our own moment. Yeah. So
that's good.
Yeah. So anyway, I feel like that was an issue for me, and I applaud you for breaking up with them or just like moving beyond that relationship, because it's difficult when folks are misaligned in that way. It's not that it's impossible, but it is very difficult, and we tried, and it was just not. It didn't work out for us.
I think the hard part for me, because I'm one of those people. Like, if we friends, like, because it's like, if I'm with you, I'm with you. And so it's like loyal to the soil. So it's like, we out. Like, it's like, I'm just that person. Like, because I feel like people have been dropped. And it's like, I don't ever want to be someone that drops somebody. So it's like, I was always just like, what you need? Where, like, I'm here. I got you. How can I help? And even to the point where he's just like, why do you always ask me if I'm okay? I'm like, you good? You all right? And I'm like, I don't know. I just want to make sure everyone's okay.
That's
like I want, right? It's just like I want to make sure I want to make sure the people that I love are good. Mm-hmm. And so it's like I'm gonna pull up, I'm gonna show up. Like as if I had the capacity, I'm gonna do it. Yeah. And so yeah. And so like to go back to your question, how would I don't know how I would be if I saw him. Like again, like I don't hate him. I don't wish him ill. I'm proud of him, happy for him. But yeah, and so it's all like learning lessons and building blocks, because it was hard, because I was like, bro, even like we broke up and I drove home and I texted him, I'm like, hey, you sure you made the right decision? I was like, we can make it work. And it's just like, nah, fam. And I'm like, okay. And because I thought about it where it's just like, just again, wanting that energy match. And like, I think for me, I didn't grow up around seeing relationships. So the or at least healthy ones, what I saw was the Cosbys, like Heathcliff and Claire, and I'm like, that's what I want. Like one night you gonna whisk me off the set, okay? Just dance the whole. That's how they ended the show, and I'm like, that is what I want, and and that's the goal for me, and so. Like, this was like, what, we broke up 6 months? Like, I don't know if it's been 6 months, but we broke up at the end of May. Mm-hmm. So what's that holiday, Memorial Day? Yeah. So we broke up Memorial Day, like that Monday. So, I don't know, like, and I know my friends like, you got to date. And I tried it. I'm like, this ain't it, chief. Not because it's like, all niggas is trash, but it's like, oh, I'm not ready. Yeah. And it's like, I'm still like working on me and like getting into that space and place where I want to be. Because I feel like the next time I date, like, listen, I'm trying to get married. And I say that not to be like, marry me now, sucker. But it's like, I'm not about to, like, beg somebody. I'm not about to do all the things. I'm going to just peep, observe. And I'm like, thank you. That's not it. You can clock out. Until the right employee comes through.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I feel you. I do feel like that is... It's tough to date. It's tough to date, and it's like I feel like I'm in a place where dating is fun, and I can afford for it to stay fun because I've had a marriage, I had a kid, and could I run it back and try to like do a marriage and kids again, whatever? Sure, I could do that.
That was my next question. Like, would you do it again?
So when I first got divorced, I was like, hard no, but that's kind of predictable. I got to a point where I considered it and was open to it, but I also feel like, but what I'll say to this day is that I'm not pursuing it.
Okay.
It's not something that I need or I'm looking for. Like,
okay.
I think it's just like, yeah, like I like having spent so much of my life in that relationship.
That's like a third of your life.
Shit.
Right? What, if it was like
Exactly.
21 to 30?
So
31?
12 years, yeah.
Yeah, because you're 38?
37.
37. Okay, I was close.
Unfortunately, close to
So,
in the right direction. But yeah, so yeah, like legit, like a third of my life. So, and really, when you go back to that, like half of that was when I was a kid. Like a third of that was when I was a child. So it's like, damn, like so much of my adult life was in that relationship. And so, I kind of just, I mentioned this to my therapist. I was like, I would like life is hard for reasons that life is hard. Like, you know, cars, you know.
Yeah, cars get stolen.
Stuff like that. Like, no, but seriously, like life is just hard, right?
Yeah.
And there comes, like, nobody will ever tell you marriage is easy.
Facts.
And I'm at a point where I want my romantic, my companionship, my romantic situation to not be one of the things that's hard. Which kind of keeps it in a fun and casual space, which my therapist and friends have been like, doesn't that kind of limit you? Because isn't there a certain value that comes from a seriousness in a relationship? And I'm like, absolutely. But I'm accepting that.
Okay.
And I would rather have the semi-casual enjoyment of seeing this person every time rather than having reasons to fight and argue about whatever the hell people in real serious relationships argue about. Like, I'm good on that.
Okay.
At least for right now.
Okay.
Ask me again tomorrow. No, I'm sorry. But no, yeah, that's kind of where I've landed. So yeah, it's not a goal. I'm not pursuing it.
Okay. So one last question: How does the kiddo feel about you, like, dating, or like? Because I remember, I don't know if you mentioned it on air, or like, I know, like, one of the times when, like, we were recording, you were talking about how your kid was like, yeah, I don't want you to have any other kids. I'm good with being an only child.
Yeah, I think every oldest kid would say that.
Yeah.
If they can talk while they can choose, while they can think they choose. Because obviously it feels like I'm getting all the attention. Like, if you have another kid, I'm not going to get all the attention, which is kind of true. But it's also like love is multiplicative. And it's not limited, so it's...
And he would be sharing his attention with this kid too.
Right. And so yeah, he did say that, and I think it's hilarious. And I don't want to have a kid just to have him. Well, first of all, I was the oldest of three. I am the oldest of three, and the plan was never for him to be an only child.
Okay.
You know, I mean, married, and you plan to have more kids, right? At some point, we got married, got divorced, separated, divorced by the time he was 3. So. And at that point, I wasn't ready to have more kids so that it would really feel like sibling. Like, I'm 3 years older than my brother, 8 years older than my sister. Like, that immediate after the divorce time frame would have been the ideal time frame to have him have a sibling in those senses, in that sense, rather than have it be like a 10, 15-year older situation.
I mean, that's not my situation. Like,
yeah.
I'm 13 years older than my little brother, like the youngest.
That's
one.
true, right? Yeah.
But it's cool though, because like he knows, like if he was like, I want to get away, come on, I got space for you.
Yeah.
Or it's like, come on, I'll teach you how to drive.
Right.
So like there are those things, but as an older sibling, you worry where it's like, are these children a good influence? Who do I need to fight?
Yeah.
What is going on?
Oh, on your
I'm like, are you okay? Like, I've seen Euphoria. Is this happening?
Oh God, that show is terrifying.
I was like, is this happening in your school? I was like, can I homeschool him, please?
Yeah. I think. Yeah, so I mean, and again, all those families, like, having kids later, whatever. Like, I've got friends who have got a kid that's just started college, and a couple that are in elementary school, or one that's elementary, one a newborn. Like everything's right. Everything's right for people who it's right for. You know what I'm saying? Like that. Like, there's no judgment or nothing like that. But yes, he as the kid realizing he has all the attention in 2 homes and 2 Christmases and whatever. He sees any other children as competition and a loss, which is very pragmatic of him. But no, I do sometimes wish he had siblings, especially during COVID, when everything was shut down. like it was just him and the adults in his life. And he actually doesn't have a whole lot of cousins his age either.
Because you're the oldest, so like your siblings are a little bit younger.
Yeah, they're younger, and my ex-wife, her sister is a bit older, so his cousin on that side is a bit older than him. So yeah, he doesn't have like that family village per se. So which is why I've been trying to be really intentional with like creating the village with my own village and their kids and making sure he sees them enough which is, I mean, it's really hard to do obviously with schedules and distance travel and whatever, but so it's never going to come to the same value of like having a sibling who sleeps in your house every day. Like there's just a lot of value there which he won't have, which it's you know, pros and cons, right? He'll still develop and learn and whatever, but
it's not to say it won't come later, like, and what I mean by that, it's like my best friend who like on her dad, like on her one family side, like who she grew up with, she was like an only child. But like me and her, I call her my sister, and like she has siblings on her dad's side who she's now getting closer with, and like there's like a massive age gap. She's 29. I think the youngest is like 12. But like they still have like this, like there's still love there. And then even again, him making friends like in college and forming like that brotherhood or sisterhood, like that sibling. So it's not like I didn't grow up down the hall from you, but it's like I know, like if shit hits the fan, and it's like I can't call my parents right away. It's like,
he knows you can.
It's like, hey bitch, come pick me up, and it's like say less, fam. You know. So it's like it might not happen like again, he might not have that now, but he could go to college or go wherever and find his tribe.
Yeah, and I think I'm hoping he'll do that. I hope he's learning enough of that now. But to kind of finish answering your question, he has asked me like specifically like, are you dating? Are you single? Like whatever. Like, are you gonna get married again? And I answered him to the best of my ability. And I told him, I was like, you know, I asked him if he was nervous to ask me. He was like, yeah. I'm like, well, I hope you don't feel nervous, because if you can ask me anything you want, and I might not be able to answer some questions, or at least not to the fullest extent, but I'll do my best to answer your questions about anything, whether it's me or something you're dealing with, or something he's dealing with. So yeah, he's asking about it. He's aware of it. Sometimes I do feel like so also to circle back to a question you asked earlier about doing stuff together with him and all that kind of stuff. We did do that a lot more earlier, and not so much now. Like not at all now. And I without going into Malibu territory, there's seasons with relationships again, and there are just divorces are hard, and there's just an ebb and flow of what we're able to do and what's healthy for us as adults first and foremost, and then what's healthy for the kids. I think he is not shy about wanting us to do things all together sometimes, but the energy just isn't there at the adult level for that. So, and that's just the truth of it, right? And I think that's okay. Hopefully that season can move towards a direction of there being a little bit more interaction there, so that but only that's only helpful if it's healty, right?
And only it's a time thing. You just gotta allow. My parents didn't speak for 10 years after they split, so it's like it wasn't until like my 8th grade graduation they were like in the same vicinity. But I think that 8th grade year I was just giving them so much hell. Like they were just like, she's hopping out of windows, she's doing crazy things. And I mean, it wasn't crazy. It was just like teenage stuff, and they're just like, we have to be united. But because it was very awkward, because like my parents, like their situation, I believe there was like an infidelity. Like they're still very tight-lipped about the situation. I know my aunt has told me things, but they're good now. Like it's like to the point where it's like, damn it. Like my dad will call. I was like, my mom called you, didn't she? And she's like, he's like, yeah. He's like, because like my mom, she hovers a little. Like if I don't answer, she's like, are you all right? Are you in a ditch? And I'm like, I'm not. I'm on my way to pizza, Mom. And my dad will be like, hey, your mom just wants to know you're alive. And I'm like, I just talked to her 4 hours ago, but okay. So it took them time, like a lot of time for them to like talk to each other, because it started gradually, like because they would just be like drop offs were between the grandparents. It was just like, we like 10. I think it might have been more, because I think they split when I was 4. They went to 8th grade graduation at 13. By the time I was a sophomore in college, in high school, they were like, hey Mike, hey Cheryl. They were good.
Yeah.
So it takes time, and I hope like that all works out for you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And first and foremost, I hope it works out for the kiddo. Like he's the one that deserves the best possible scenario to, if we can continue to work on ourselves and be able to like co-parent with increasing compatibility and effectiveness and kind of teamwork type of thing. Like the more we're able to do that, I think the better for him. But he's loved. He's loved and he's cared for. He's got multiple generations in his life, which is a blessing. And it's yeah.
And at the end of the day, y'all not crackheads.
No, we're not. We're not.
So you guys are already doing a great job.
It's a good start.
And so I want to thank you for being very honest and transparent about this whole conversation.
Yes, yeah, I appreciate it. This is these are conversations I've had with folks, but I've never done this with the mic right here. So
mic.
So that's new for me and new for the show. So thank you for the push and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for being hot, humble, open, and transparent.
Yeah, I like that.
Courtesy of Transformation Church.
Yeah.
That's their thing. There's like, we are a hot church, a humble, open, and transformation. A humble, open, and transparent. And so it's not an easy thing to give somebody the space of vulnerability because you're not obligated to do that. Yeah. So again, thank you for doing this on your show.
I appreciate it. And I do have, I know we usually end with a song that we're vibing to. And when we finished recording the other episode about your car, I mentioned Oddisee, but I didn't have a particular song.
Oh,
the song that hit me yesterday, and I sent it to my buddy Mai in Philly, episode 3. He was Oddisee from the Odd Tape, which is a play on his own name, but the song is called "Born Before Yesterday." And the Odd Tape, I swear to God, I've heard that song, that whole album, multiple times. This particular track, I'm like, bro, I do not remember hearing this track ever until yesterday. And that joint is fire, and it's called "Born Before Yesterday," which I think is a dope name. It's an instrumental track, and it's just fire. And I love the name "Born Before Yesterday" because that's one of those adages like, "Oh, you think I was born yesterday?" And I think it kind of speaks to like naivete or whatever, and I think that we can be hard on ourselves with relationships, and I think one thing my dad says is to just like realize that it's truly about the journey. I know it's cliche. It's about the journey. Everything happens for a reason. Blah blah. But those things are also they're very true, and everybody's doing the best they can under the circumstances, as my uncle says. And so, all we've got is our experience and our understanding of our experience, and and that's kind of the premise of the show. Again, like it's just like, who knows? It's just life. Like hey.
We outside. We just figure it out.
We out here just doing it. Improvisation. Life is improvisation.
That's all it is. It's like you gonna learn. It just reminded me of something I was talking to my pastor about last night because he when we were doing Bible study, and he takes questions, and he was taking questions at the end, and I was just like, well, what if you? Cause we were talking about like open doors and doors. I'm like, well, what if you go through the wrong door? And he was like, it's a lesson on maturity, and there's grace for that. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, man, that's good Bible, because that is true. He's like, because you wait for the maturity, but if you go ahead, but it's like, he's like, you're supposed to wait, and it just, how do I say this? Long story short, he's like, there's grace for that. There's grace for it all.
Yeah. And I think the challenge is interpersonally extending that grace from us to those in our lives. Yeah. Which is challenging. Like if your car gets stolen, like sending grace to the person who stole your car. Yeah. Despite all the pain and the hurt and the inconvenience that was for you, finding that grace within yourself, finding that grace for myself to my ex-wife, who, we've been through a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, a lot of the good times, of course, too. But extending grace is difficult. But trying to do that is the human thing to do, I feel like, and it's it ultimately makes us better people, makes us a better community, better village. You know what I'm saying? The better we're able to do that.
It makes us love better too.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah.
But yeah, that was wonderful.
Thank you. I appreciate the push. I appreciate the nudge. We in Virginia Beach, which is the setting for it. So here we are. Okay. All right, listeners, you heard it. You heard it first here on the show. Never got into my personal relationship history at all. But thank you, girl Cierra, for opening that can of worms.
and I did it because it's like, I feel like it was like, okay, like, it's kind of like circling back to the woman thing, right? Where it's like asking questions like, how you get through this? How you, like, and asking that rather than like, because I've done the retreating, I've done that. So I'm like, all right, how did my friends get through some of like their hardest breakups? How are they navigating through it? And then like, and now even being in this space where it's like, okay, like I'm navigating through, and again, a divorce is not a breakup, but I feel like that is completely different. There's a lot of different things. A breakup is like it's kind of like a clean little, like the little swivel thingy and you out, but it's like there's a lot with divorce, especially when there's the kids involved. And so I love having this conversation. And so again, thank you again for the gift of your vulnerability.
I appreciate it. And you mentioned that. I've also read books too. I read a lot. That's part of the healing journey too. There's a lot of books that have contributed to it. Esther Perrel. So many books that just help me just be okay with myself, be okay with the way the relationship went. There's information that I learned that was like, oh damn, that'd have been good to know at various points in the relationship or even before the relationship. But at the end of the day, it's all about learning and preparing yourself to make the best choices for you and those around you next time. So.
Yes. This was a good episode.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Good job. All right, then. Well, that's the show. You can get at us on Instagram. I'm at Realdadult. That's REALDADULT.
My name is Cierra Charisma. You can find me on the socials at CIERRA, Cierra Charisma, CARISMA.
All right, as always, you can get at us on Instagram. Tell us what you thought about this episode or any prior episodes. You can also tell us if you have any ideas for future episodes. We hope to catch you here next time. Until then, be safe, be well. Peace.
Bye, y'all.
Life podcast is recorded, produced, and edited by me. All thoughts and views expressed on the show represent